know I've said that many times, but I really mean it this time. We've got an incredible show, got some of my best friends in the industry. We've got the executive team from Wikimotive. We're talking about internet advertising. We're talking about automotive advertising. We're talking about the bad boys of the industry. You know, everybody's a gangster till a real gangster walks in the room, right? Okay, well, first of all, talking about my friends. Look at this, Tim Martell. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Hey, the Alpha Dog himself. Thank you so much for having us on today. We are excited to be here. You know, I knew I was coming on your show. And so, you know, like they say, when in Rome, I got my official Jim Ziegler gear on today,
Alpha
specially
Dog
just for
starter
you.
kit. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
you got a little jewelry there. You know,
Got a little bling. I got to get the. I got to get my.
Bling.
Yeah. I got to get the Rolex going, right?
You got to get the Rolex going. You know, if you can't wear $100,000 on your left hand, what can you do?
For sure. I hear you. I hear you.
And speaking about good friends, wait till you see this guy, Angus Fox. Here he comes. 1, 2, 3. Hello, Angus.
Hey, buddy. How you been?
Oh, you got that COVID beard. Look at that Rasputin look.
That's right.
Oh, man. How have you been, big guy?
Been doing pretty well. You're right. Grew a little bit of a COVID beard. Been laying a little bit low, spending time doing the research, but came out of it pretty okay and ready to see what 2021's got for all of us.
Now, here's one of my new best friends. Let's click him on here. 3, 2. Hey, this is Dave Etsy. Dave, how are you? Esty, how are you?
I'm well. How are you today?
Pretty good. The newest member of the Wikimotive executive team.
Sure am. Trying to catch up to Angus with the beard. I'll get there.
Okay, yeah, you got that. You got that look. You got that manicured look. You know, he's got that street look. You know. Of course, you know, you get a little older, you'd be like our boy Martell got the skunk stripes.
Yeah, I'm hiding mine still.
Little Grecian formula.
Yeah.
Make that happen. Tim, what are we going to talk about today, big guy?
Yeah, well, you know, again, thanks so much for having me on, Jim. You know, one of the things that I really want to talk about today, especially for your audience, is just the direction that the industry is headed in and some of the concerns and things that dealers really need to be focused on as we move into Q2, into the summertime, how we're going to see kind of the industry change in terms of, you know, inventory supply, how that's going to affect used car values. And really what I think is probably one of the most interesting things that I've seen in my entire career in the automotive industry is that the kind of two different scenarios that we're seeing in terms of completely opposite experiences from dealer to dealer, right? Because, you know, Jim, some dealerships are really hurting for that new car inventory and even to keep used cars on the ground. I know that there are some of the extremes that we're seeing out there are dealers to the point of thinking of closing their showroom until they're waiting for inventory resupply. And on the opposite end, we have dealers that either allocated, you know, wisely on a gamble, you know, in the midst of COVID while inventory was still available, that bought used cars really well and have a surplus of inventory. Even in their markets, you know, their competitors, everyone is flush with inventory. And then you have other markets where nobody has inventory. And this varies by brand and by marketplace.
It's not going to get any better, Tim.
Not in a hurry.
No, because of the parts shortage, electronics shortage, raw material shortage. So used car values are going up. I'm telling dealers right now,
through the roof.
Don't be dumping your cars at the auction too fast. I mean, through the years, I've said, hang on to your car, 60-day term, drop dead turn, 60 days. Right now, I'm saying, hang on, because all cars are going to be difficult to get. We got Carvana, Vroom. We've got people standing at the auction with their hands up till their arms cramp. You know, so it's going to be a little different situation. And don't be selling your cars too cheap. Cars are at a premium, new and used.
Absolutely.
So I think you're absolutely right about that, Tim.
Well, and so what's interesting is that's going to completely change at a certain point in time, right? Because the microchip shortage will end. You know, vaccinations are really speeding up. We're going to have everybody vaccinated. And then we're going to have the OEMs, you know, turn on 3 shifts of producing cars, and we're going to go from no cars to oversupply of cars. And so we're going to see that, you know, right now a lot of dealers are holding really great grosses. They're making a lot. If they have inventory, they're making great money on the fact that supply and demand is really in their favor. And then that's all going to flip, right? The OEMs are going to flip that switch. That, you know, the factory is just going to be printing these things out. And the smart dealers that were wise about how they manage their marketing spend are really going to capture market share and be in the better position when that switch occurs, versus the ones who are overspending across the board. They're going to go from, hey, we're making a ham sandwich, we're making some decent money every month, to, you know, potentially selling themselves into the red instead of being in the black and producing positive revenue. And so one of the things that I'm really seeing happen more so in the last year than in any other time is the reduction in efficiency of a PPC or an SEM strategy.
Okay,
So
pay-per-click, search engine marketing,
yes,
strategies, big
I'm
disparity
seeing
between dealer to dealer.
huge. I mean, I'm just seeing dealers light their money on fire by being overly reliant on these strategies to produce results. So, you know, recently during the last quarter of 2020, we ran a case study with one of our clients, Dan Cummins. A lot of people have heard of them.
Dan
In Paris,
Cummins,
Kentucky.
super dealers, big volume dealer, London, Paris, Kentucky.
Big volume.
Paris, Kentucky.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so in Q4 2020, in looking to, you know, kind of increase the numbers, get a shot in the arm, they spent $56,000 on a PPC strategy, trying to get, you know, some more opportunity in addition to their organic strategy to kind of, you know, like I said, get that shot in the arm, get some more opportunities. Well, what was interesting is we were able to see what their organic strategy was doing prior to unleashing that strategy, and then what happened when that phase ended. And what we found is, so they spent $56,000 to get 22,900 additional clicks through PPC to their website. But when they did that, they lost 19,000 clicks from organic. So they spent $56,000 to really only get 3,000 more clicks to their website. Another way to look at that would be,
wait. What do you attribute that to?
So the problem is that PPC in automotive specifically always cannibalizes your organic search, which means what you end up doing as the dealer is paying 2 or 3 times to get the same customer that potentially would have come in for free, right? And so in this case, it's very clear. We can see from beginning to end the absolute handoff, the switch. When PPC came on, organic dropped by 19,000. They gained 22,000 in PPC. PPC came off. All of that organic search returned as soon as that campaign ended, right? And so you're talking about 3,700 additional clicks, really, that they got for a $56,000 spend. So that they effectively wasted about 48,000 of that 56,000, or they paid 17 cents a click for the 3,200 clicks that they wouldn't have gotten if they didn't run that strategy. So bear in mind, that's $17 for a click. We're not even talking a lead or a sale. We're talking for a click.
Just for a view. Just for
a view. Right. And this is not a unique case to Dan Cummins at all. In fact, you know, a lot of people would assume with a disparity like that it's largely geared around branded search, right? The
Okay, now
dealer's
what
name.
you've done is you've identified a problem. Did you identify a solution?
Yeah, absolutely. Cut that spend. Stop wasting that money.
Oh God, you saw the movie Home Alone?
Absolutely. So really work with your, and here's the beauty. You know, this isn't a pitch for Wikimotive. You've probably already got an SEO company. You're paying somebody to do some kind of SEO. When you know, turn off your paid search campaign for a couple of weeks and measure your, now this is the key, because you have to own your own data and you have to look at the right data, what's in your Google Analytics.
Well, I assume all dealers own their data, don't they?
No, and this is the crazy part.
Wait. No. Okay, well, first of all, obviously you wouldn't bring it up if your dealers didn't own their data.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, you're not going to shoot yourself. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
we're kind of weird in this industry, because one of the things that we do when we onboard a client is we actually give them ownership, because most dealers don't own their data. One of the first things we work to do is separate whoever wrongly owns that data and give that ownership back to the dealer.
When you say the dealers own their data, define that. I mean, what data do they own? How do they own it? How does anybody else own the dealer's data? How does that happen?
Yeah, so there are a lot of examples of this. You know, you've got your Google Analytics, Search Console, Google My Business, a lot of different places like that where they should own the access to that data. But the easiest one to that people probably most be familiar with is their Google Analytics. A lot of times, like if you're a dealer.com client, dealer.com owns the access to your Google Analytics. If you ever change
your second, dealer.com owns your data?
Yes, in most cases, yes.
Maybe I knew that.
So, you know, if all of a sudden, like, you know, look at GM dealers just got dealer choice, they can have, you know, it's still CDK, even though it's not CDK, or now they can have dealer.com or DealerOn or Dealer Inspire. In a lot of cases, these companies own the only Google Analytics account that's tied into that website. That means if you ever fire them and you find a better website provider, you're starting back from scratch with your data. So you have no possibility to have any historical context.
I always tell dealers, read the EULA agreement on anything you sign. The dealers don't know what a EULA agreement is. The EULA is End User License Agreement. It's on every contract every vendor has. And if that EULA agreement says that they have right to repurpose, resell, share your data, or
that's right,
or repurpose your data, those are the words you're looking for.
Absolutely. And so the fact that, you know, you've got two problems. You've got the vendor problem with access to your data, and then the other thing that tends to plague dealers is Johnny the internet guy set up the Google Analytics account, and now for whatever reason Johnny the internet guy gets fired. And he also has the access to the Facebook account and Search Console, and now nobody knows where the hell Johnny went or how to recover these passwords. They deleted his email.
And he's pissed.
He's hurting you online, right? I mean, this is the other problem that dealers have. So the dealer principal, or, you know, an invested general manager, really needs to control the login access to these accounts. And so, you know, owning your own data and then understanding the right data to look at to actually measure tangible results is going to be the difference maker this year. And that's something, you know, Dave, as our director of SEO, has really been working hands-on with dealers to get better goal tracking, you know, implemented so that we can see, did we sell more cars, right? Did it sell cars?
Question, Dave, how do we do that?
We should be looking at.
How do you do that, Dave?
Yeah, so I mean, the real trick is anytime you get another company putting a tool on your website, you need to make sure that that tool is firing events into Google Analytics so you can track what it's doing. If you're not getting access to that information, you can't realistically know what the tool is actually providing for, for value. It could be a complete miss for you where you're just wasting money because you can't verify against what they're telling you is happening yourself. So what we see very frequently is, this new chat box will get loaded on the website, and everybody's saying, "Hey, this looks great, and it's really working for us." And you go into analytics to try to write a goal around it to see whether people are actually turning from a site visitor into a site customer. And that's the big difference. Dealerships aren't just paying all this money to have a website and then paying to have additional tools on that website just to have these things. These are things that are supposed to convert people into being customers so they can then sell either service, parts, new or used cars. You need to get them into that buying funnel. And if you don't have the events that are tracking how they're moving through that buying funnel, you don't have any visibility into what's actually going on.
It makes a lot of sense to me, and I'm a lot more tech savvy than many of the dealers, and I'm not tech savvy by any means.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we going to safeguard against this? What measures are we going to take?
Sure. So the first thing you need to do when you're talking to somebody about adding another thing to your website is you need to demand that tool fire events into Google Analytics, so that you can then write goals for it. We see a number of things where they don't report any information into Google Analytics at all, either because it's iframed into the website or they have their own proprietary dashboard that will always show you a green arrow going up and to the right, no matter what. And they do this for a reason.
Dave, you're saying that.
Yeah.
But will these vendors comply and do that? I mean, you say they've got their own proprietary dashboard.
Sure. Some will.
Yeah, some will. We've run into a couple digital retailing tools that initially were not firing events, and all we had to do was call them and ask them to do it. And they sent over a full document saying, yeah, for sure, we can definitely start doing that. Here's how you can also set things up on your end so you'll get full clarity. A lot of times you just have to ask, but if you don't ask, you don't get.
I'm picturing some of the big boys will not do that.
Certainly there are some, and that's why it's so important to have a trusted advisor that really keeps current on all of these things, right? Because it moves so fast now, especially in the last year with COVID. The switch to digital retailing, I mean, dealers were just chasing down any digital retailing tool they could get their hands on. Like Dave was saying, we've been having pretty good luck with Roadster, for example.
Yep.
And with all of these digital retailing tools, there are some SEO consequences to the way that they've implemented that. But at least if we can track the data, and not all are created equal. Like some of them, like you said, Jim, they won't comply. We've had pretty good luck with Roadster, so that's certainly something important for dealers to consider. In the interest of transparency, we have no relationship with Roadster whatsoever. I don't even think I know anyone over at Roadster. Just from Dave's experience working with some of our dealer clients, we know they will comply with our requests.
I've had demos with most of the digital retailing people now. I've looked at Prodigy, I've looked at Darwin, I've looked at Roadster. I haven't yet. I saw Frickin' Tech. I haven't yet seen Auto5, but for some reason their marketing director seems to be avoiding me.
That's never a good sign, Jim.
Yeah.
No, not a good sign. Well, I'm looking at my good friend, my really good friend, Angus Fox, sitting over here in the bottom box. What's Angus up to?
Oh, all kinds of stuff. I want to piggyback a little bit about what Dave was talking about too when we're talking about data ownership. One of the things that I've been really encouraging all the dealers that we're working with to do this year is a tag audit. We should do this all the time, but I won't mention any providers by name, but everybody remembers, for example, a certain vendor that was nice enough to give everybody a free SMS texting tool. All you had to do is put some JavaScript on our website. And then they stopped supporting that. But you'd be surprised how many dealerships, for example, still have that JavaScript firing and are still providing that provider with all kinds of wonderful information about their clients. Yeah. So one of the things that we really like to talk about is not just owning your accounts, but also where your data is going. So you need to make sure that you have the ability to understand everything that's firing on your website.
When I talk about data suckers, you know, it's amazing how many people are sucking data out of your DMS, out of your CRM, and out of your website.
Yes, for sure.
There's 3 places where data is kept, and there's 3 kinds of data. Just for dealers out there, there's transactional data, which is the amount that people paid.
Yep.
There's personally identifiable data that is the holy grail that gives you their name, address, phone number, or any other information about how you can personally identify the people. So you got transactional, personally identifiable, and then you've also got data on how they came in, where they are in the buying process. So you've got different types of data.
Yeah, and you have to think about, unfortunately, you have to think about holistically how to secure them, but also ways to secure them individually. So the tag audit is a really good way to do that. It's not that hard to do.
Financial data was the third one I was thinking of.
Yep.
So I'm thinking basically the Cox companies.
And it's an interesting time too.
The Cox companies, with their affiliate companies, they've got all of it. They've got personally identifiable information coming in through DMS, coming in through, they've got that. And DealerTrack. DealerTrack also provides them with financial data. So now they've got financial, personally identifiable, and they've got the CRM and event solutions. They've got transactional. So they know all 3 of the major types of data, and they share it with each other.
And it's not even just the sharing, Jim. They're also using this to leverage it against your profit center, right? So like when you see road loans and things like that, they're trying to steal your F&I business. There are so many ways that they can negatively leverage this against the profitability of the dealership they're supposed to be serving as their end client.
Have you ever heard of ghostery?
Of course.
Yeah, ghostery.
Perfect.
Like ghost.
Yep.
Ghostery, GHOSTERY. I've got it on my computer here. Right now, I'm on BeLive, and there are 12 trackers, according to Ghostery, sending data out of this broadcast.
I bet.
There are, and some of those are legitimate trackers. Some of those are things that I would want them to be sending things to. Like they're sending it to Facebook, they're sending it to YouTube, they're sending it to places I've asked them to send it. But I'll tell you what, every dealer in the world needs to get Ghostery and see where they're sending information off of your website. Especially when you find out that your website provider is selling it to your competition. They're selling it to clearinghouses like Detroit Trading Company that buys and sells leads.
and Ghostery is sometimes not even enough too, Jim, because you could have 10 different Google Analytics on there because your pay-per-click provider wanted their own, and then everybody has a tag manager on there. Everyone has all these things, and if you don't know who owns that or where that data is going, you are literally, like Jeff says, you're giving away the keys to the castle, and that's a very big problem. It's not that hard to do a tag audit. You can do one by one of the best ways to handle work is by offloading it. The first thing you do, basically send an email to all your vendors and say, hey, what tags do you have on my website? I need to know everything you're responsible for. And you send something to your dealer website rep and your website rep and say the same thing. Hey, can you tell me what you guys are seeing for tags on my site? If you have a technical agency like Wikimotive, we couldn't do all this stuff for you, but this is certainly something that a dealership can do itself.
You can guide the people how to do it there. You help them.
For sure. And we're so passionate about this stuff. This is the kind of stuff we help with anyway. We have, I think there's a Just the Tip coming out about how to do tag audits pretty soon. We have some online training that's coming out about how to do this stuff. We do this kind of stuff all the time. We just want to get to the baseline of who has access to our data. Do they need access to our data? You find out some interesting stuff too. For example, Why is my pay-per-click? You ask them what events are you tracking? What are you tracking for conversions? And then you start to notice stuff. So maybe my pay-per-click provider, my display advertising provider is tracking conversions, but they're not reporting on conversions. Why not?
Why not?
Right. Or maybe
because they're not converting.
I don't know. So that's one of the things that you really want to make sure of, right? We want to inspect what we expect. So we want to make sure that our website vendors, what tags do they have on there? You can also learn a lot about a website by who shares tags, right? All the dealer.com websites technically have the same GA on them. There's certain pay-per-click providers who will double up tags on sites so you can see stuff. So it also can tell a little bit about your website. But you just want to make sure that anybody who has access to your client information and your website analytics, or even if they don't have access to your Google Analytics, having a tag is often enough to generate your own analytics on the site. So you want to know who's on there, what they're doing, and where they are. So not that hard to do. Another great thing to do when you add somebody, you want to check and see what your changes were, right? So before I sign up a new chat company, before I sign up a new pay-per-click provider, whatever, I want to look at my what tags I have before and after. I want to check my page speed. I want to look at my core web vitals. I want to check my web usability and search console.
These are services that Wikimotive offers as part of the complete package, correct?
Yes, sir. And this is the kind of stuff that we don't just do this stuff for you. We kind of show you how to do this stuff too, because there's certain 5 or 10 minute sniff checks you can do to see how things are kind of going, right? We really want to make sure that, not that there's ever been a dishonest automotive vendor, but we just want to continue to keep the honest people honest. We're really, really about vendor accountability. We're very open with our stuff. We don't have mystery analytics. We don't hide data. We show everybody everything. You have some vendors who, they think that their pay-per-click is the secret sauce, so they don't want to give access to that kind of stuff to outside partners. That's okay, maybe if they don't want to give it to a consultant, but certainly you should have access to your pay-per-click. You should have access in the back of ads, right? You should insist that your pay-per-click provider not only links your pay-per-click to your Google Analytics, which is what are the things that are happening on your website, but also links your Search Console, which are the things that happen on Google search. That opens up a lot of great things for us, like, for example, the paid and organic report. A lot of people have never seen the paid and organic report, which is awful funny, because it can reveal a lot of interesting things.
Okay, the paid and organic report. Tell me a little more depth about it.
Sure. So after you have your Search Console tied to your Google Ads, going forward from the date that you make that connection, you can see for your paid search and your organic search all the times that you showed up on Google and where. So that's going to provide almost the complete picture of
all the times you showed up on Google and where.
And for what terms? So now we can start to look at things.
Is this the times you showed up in a search? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So it's the times that you've showed up in the search. It's the times that you've had. So we're saying impressions. It's how many times you've been clicked, what your click-through rate is. It allows us to start making apples to apples comparisons to my pay-per-click and my paid search, which is really the holy grail. A lot of times there's manual ways to do it. Google has taken care of a lot of this stuff for us. There's ways that you can do it in Data Studio, but the most easy way, it's not that hard. A lot of us have gotten used to asking to make sure that your pay-per-click, your Google Ads account is linked to my Google Analytics. Now we want to make sure, please link it to my Search Console, and let's review the paid and organic report so I can see. It's very easy to have a high-level report that looks great. I have a 34% click-through rate for you, Alpha Dog. It looks great. Cool. How much of that is for my name? We have to start breaking things out into branded and non-branded search and start having different criteria for that. If I'm looking at quality score is not the be-all and end-all that it used to be, but it's still a canary in a coal mine for how things are going. But I would never accept the same quality score on a branded term, for example, as I would for a competitor's term. If I'm directly going for my own name, I should have an 8 to 10 quality score. Whereas if I'm trying to rank for the name of the competitor, that may be harder to do. And then if there's certain other terms that are vehicle terms, for example, maybe a 5 to a 7 would be appropriate. But we can't.
Okay, let's say they search for Ford F-150 in your city.
Sure. Then if you have a 5 to 7 quality score, and if it's a 5, they should be trying to improve that. That would be fine. Again, there's going to be a lot of people who are saying, oh, quality score, that's a little bit old. It is. There's 3 criteria that make that up now. We're not going to go super in depth on pay-per-click, but we just want to make sure that when we're talking to our providers, We're speaking the same language. I ask them the same thing all the time. Okay, what have we done to make sure we're not cannibalizing against my organic traffic? What have you done to reduce my cost per click this month? What have you done?
Your organic search, your free traffic, are you paying to duplicate that and actually decrease the organic is what you're saying?
Correct. Just like Tim had referenced before. And also,
I can understand that.
Right. And you're also taking away from your Google My Business, possibly, and your Google Maps. So recently, Google My Business they're currently in the process of converting over to a new way to look at some of your profile information. They have search review terms now, so you can see everywhere you showed up and had a knowledge panel display, either on Maps or on regular Google search. That's another place where we can go and look and say, well, if I'm already showing up in the knowledge panel for Ford, maybe that we should take some of the money we're spending on the term Ford and look further down the funnel at some terms that are maybe more transactional. So when we start to, first we have to make sure we own all our data sources. Then we have to make sure we're the only people who have access to our data sources. But then we can start to look at them together and make sure I'm not paying 6 people to do Facebook for me, or I'm not paying to rank for the same term that I'm already there on the top 2 positions organically, the top of the map pack and the knowledge panel. Especially when every pay-per-click meeting, they always say, if we had more budget, we'd get you more leads. You have budget. You just need to point it at the things that are going to get me leads instead of the things that make your metrics look good.
Let me ask you now, not naming anybody in specific, but you've got some competitors, and some of these competitors are actually preferred by the factory.
Mm.
And some of these competitors actually refer data back to the factory.
Yes, that's a great way to be preferred by the factory, isn't it?
Yeah, to actually send proprietary data back to the factory that the factory doesn't necessarily have a right to see.
Right.
And
not only
customer
customer data, but also data that they're then going to use to advertise against us that I have to then pay to outbid them on tier 1 and tier 2 advertising.
Yeah.
So you know, and that happens. I mean, we've seen it before where the tier 2 provider, for example, changed, and 6 months, 8 months later, the last tier 2 provider still has access to all the data. You don't think that's valuable?
Are you aware that one of the major domestic manufacturers hired a vendor and made the ad groups by this vendor? This has been it's ongoing right now. And they found out that all the leads were coming out of bots that were in 3 parts of the country.
Yeah.
And there are some ad groups going to war right now. And this is a major vendor that actually got caught with these bots generating, I guess I'm going to say fake leads.
Sure. Or even if it's just impressions and that kind of stuff too. I mean, ad fraud is one of the major problems. It's kind of the dirty secret of the advertising agency, the advertising world. It really depends on where you go. There's a lot of valid reasons for bots to be on the internet. You know, Google uses bots to crawl to make sure that you have your content indexed, and there's Trade Pending uses a bot to make to get inventory data that provides a useful service for trading tools. There's many great reasons why to use bots. We use bots occasionally to scan websites, but bots that do things like jack up my pay-per-click rate or or sending fake leads. I mean, we've all seen what kind of happens.
This is ongoing. This is a scandal happening as we speak.
Sure.
Yes.
Well, this is part of like what we talked about with lead clearinghouses too, right? Like if I know that I'm going to send you the good leads, well, what if I don't have enough of the bad leads and I still have to hit my number? You can do that fairly easily. And we've seen that. I mean, we see that a lot with display. Display is a little bit easier and right for fraud. Video too, if you're not doing it right.
We know there are 3% leads and 18% leads. We know that there are leads that have an 18% chance of transacting and a 3% chance of transacting.
It's a Glengarry.
The vendor that sells them to you know which are which. And they actually mix them up like a soup and they blend them. And if you ever try to cancel a vendor, all of a sudden they're going to dump in a bunch of 18% leads and say, look, we really are useful.
Right. And not only that, Jim, but a lot of the vendors don't even know that they're selling you shit. They don't know that they're selling you garbage because they're not actually producing the leads themselves. they're using a third party to provide this stuff, and they don't even realize that the third party they're reselling this stuff from is feeding them garbage, right? So, like, for example, I won't name any names, but we just ran an advertising campaign for Wikimotive to advertise for dealers. Now, it was a display-oriented campaign that was designed to put a creative ad specifically in front of dealer principals and general managers at dealerships, right? And so we put a $10,000 spend on this campaign, and then Angus watched to see what did we get for that $10,000 spend? What were these clicks? Where were they coming from? What was the data source being attributed to? And almost every bit of traffic was coming out of a server in Maine. And some of the dealers that when they tried to verify that this was a legitimate advertising campaign, some of the dealerships that they mentioned they put us in front of went out of business 10, 12 years ago. And this is supposed to be a very current list of active general managers and dealer principals. We couldn't attribute a single real bit of click traffic on this campaign. There was just no evidence that it was anything other than fraud.
Your inventory distribution, your syndication.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I nailed down a vendor here about 5 years ago, and I said, you are selling inventory to third parties. And the vendor denied it. I said, no, you're not. You are selling inventory off of this dealer site. You're selling it to a really well-known pirate. I don't like the people anyway. So, and the vendor said to me, I said, they're paying you. He said, Jim, it's not that much money.
That makes it worse.
Yeah, it's not that much money. The vendor said that. This was a dealer that a vendor, the dealer was paying for syndication of their inventory.
Right.
Unreal.
There used to be a commercial on TV. It's 9 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? Well, it's 9 o'clock. Do you know where your inventory is?
Well, that's another thing we talk about when we talk about custody too, right? Like, if you've terminated your relationship with a vendor, are you still sending them an inventory feed? Because that's really great for them. Because
and all kinds of data, really.
Right, for sure. I mean, we see this all the time. You know, you cancel somebody, and all of a sudden you're still getting more leads from them, and that it depends on the relationship you have with them. But I would be leery. You know, their product is your inventory, and they're still selling it to your competitor. So if you're giving them your product,
parasites are partners. Partners are parasites.
Some partners.
I cringe when a vendor says, "We're your partner." You're a parasite. I know you. You know, and I hear that so many times. Because we did an audit a while back of a dealer in Detroit, Michigan, an FCA dealer. There were 78 vendors taking information out of his DMS.
Wow.
Whoa.
And some of them were traveling event sales that he hadn't done business with it in 5 years. Hadn't done business with them in 5 years, and they were still extracting data out of the DMS.
And then how are they securing that data? I mean, there's a million rabbit holes that can go down. Not just that it's going to hurt you from a business perspective, but so, for example, Massachusetts has 201 CMR 17, protection of personally identifiable information. Every single one of those users,
identifiable information.
Yes. That's a $10,000 fine a person. A lot of states have something very similar. You know, if all of a sudden it turns out that you've been sending a list of sales, for example, of your customers out of your DMS to a vendor every day for 5 years, what's that number look like? It's pretty big. You're going to have to
personally
a lot of front-end pros to get that off.
And still in all, there are vendors assembling your personally identifiable because you filled out a form somewhere, and they equated it to your email address, and you know
the internet can be a wretched hive of scum and villainy, as we like to say, for sure. You know, we try to help and be good custodians and data Sherpas for our customers and clients, and for the industry as a whole. Really, you know, I would love to have every dealer as a client. I know that's not realistic, but I still want every dealer to be educated and knowledgeable, because the only way that we can clean up this industry and finally bury the rest of the stigma that's kind of attached to us. I think dealerships have done a pretty good job in treating customers well. We still see, unfortunately, Vroom ads and other providers who are trying to, maybe not have the best first impression of dealerships, or they're, still referencing back to the 80s kind of used car salesman idea. But and we've done better at the dealership. We still have to clean up vendors, unfortunately. Some of them are very big and make a lot of money, so it can be very tough. And that kind of goes back to your question that you asked earlier, right? Well, what if the vendors won't do this? Then that's not a vendor I want to do business with. If you're not willing to give me the tools to see if you're ripping me off, then I don't need to do business with you.
Well, we've already pretty well established that there are criminal vendors, there are criminal agencies, there are criminal web providers. Just about every vendor that takes money from a dealership has some possibility of criminality. Well, let's talk about what is so good about Wikimotive. Why would they do business with you?
Oh boy.
So for a lot of the reasons that myself and Angus and Dave have been talking about, all of these recommendations that we're making are just the basic fundamentals of what we do here. A lot of that is born out of my background, right? I was in retail for 22 years before I became a vendor, and I don't like to lean on that as like, hey, I'm a car guy, I know your world. I mean, you can't spend 22 years in retail and not understand the car business. But that's it's because I ultimately care about the dealer community, because that's what I was raised on. I'm a second generation car guy. My dad, who's same age as you, Jim, just left retail after 50 years and 5 months this year. So it's very near and dear to my heart. And there's no reason that as a vendor you can't make a wonderful living and provide first-class services to car dealers that actually help them generate a return on investment.
That's why you've got some of the biggest dealers in the world, like Dan,
absolutely,
doing business with you. That's why you've got a clientele of some of the biggest dealers in the universe. Your dad and I, I've been in business 47 years. Your dad's been in the business 50 years. When the first automotive vendor came crawling out of the ocean, we kicked him back in.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's why Dan Cummins does business with us, right? We started working with them when they were, a 200 to 300 car a month dealer. Now they sell 900 cars a month, right? Same thing with McCluskey. Was my first client 11 years ago, right? And so, when they first hired us, they were selling 95 cars a month. Now they sell over 800 cars a month. Now, certainly, I would never dare to take credit for all of the success of those dealerships. Listen, we do a first-class job of providing opportunity, but it is a partnership. If you're really going to provide, a first-class service, there's got to be a partnership there. They have to execute. We can't sell the cars for you, and the dealerships have to execute at the store level and have great leadership and a good process and a good culture. All of those things are certainly true, but the difference in terms of what kind of performance you can really generate when you have transparency from vendor to dealer is just it's truly incredible, and particularly when you're more than the services that you provide. I think that's what. If you could characterize the X factor in Wikimotive, is that we're more than the services that we provide. Yes, we provide first-class SEO services, but you've got guys like Angus and Dave over here who are looking at your data every day and seeing, hey, why are there so many tags firing on this dealership's website? Why is the page speed so poor on this website? Well, it's because you've got 17 vendors that you fired in the last 10 years. And they're still on your website, sending scripts, firing scripts, slowing your website down, creating problems. That's just second nature. That's the automatic stuff that we do.
All these tags firing on your website is incredible. And
absolutely.
And you're leaking out your DMS, you're leaking out of your CRM. I mean, you got vendors sharing information with their affiliate companies. I mean, and they're selling leads. They're some of the major lead providers, and I'm not going to say which one I'm talking about. You can decide what's true, but there are vendors that were selling excess leads that dealers paid for to Detroit trading companies selling them back to you, coming off your
Absolutely. So to kind of summarize, paid search is really becoming the worst offenders for wasted spend, right? So dealers really need to look hard at that. If you are spending on paid search, and if you're spending on display, you should just fire that immediately, because it's nearly 100% fraud at this point. But if you're spending on paid search, like Angus was saying, you really need to be asking the questions of, are you cannibalizing our free organic search, with branded paid search and things of this nature. Dealers think you gotta own your own data. You should immediately do an audit to find out who owns the access to this.
Well, wait a second. Will you guys do that data with no obligation for a dealer, even though they're not your client?
Absolutely. If any member of the tribe that wants to call us for a free audit on these things, we'd be happy to do that for them.
No such thing as the
no
tribe.
strings
That's an urban
obligation.
That's an urban myth. Okay. Yeah. So in other words, even if they're not your client, you'll still audit, no obligation. You'll take a look at what's firing off the website.
Yeah. And we'll be spending a couple of hours with that dealer going over. What we find is truly at a level of depth that they've probably never experienced before. Like, we find everything.
Yeah. Well, this particular broadcast, we probably got 15 people watch this broadcast, but I'm going to tell you, we get thousands on the replays.
Sure.
So I'll be posting this all over the known social universe.
Sweet.
And plus, you're going to be on Alpha Dawg on Demand, ZieglerOnDemand.com. So, anything else?
That's right.
Anything you want to tell people?
Of course, remember, every Thursday on Facebook, on Wikimotive's Facebook page, Just the Tip at 8 a.m. and of course available throughout the week. So every Thursday, tune in. There's no pitch or anything like that. It's literally 5 to 6 minutes of stuff like this focused on a single specific area that can give you real actionable, help. There's zero calls to action. It's not, hey, call us or anything like that. It's literally how to do something that will make you money.
I've got your contact information across the bottom of the screen, Wikimotive.com.
Beautiful. We love it.
You're Tim at Wikimotive, right?
That's me, Tim at Wikimotive.com. That's right.
Fantastic. Well, this has been really enlightening, and I'll have this all over the place. Looking forward to seeing you guys in the next 3 months. I mean, that beard's got to be a little longer next time I see you, Angus.
I'm working on it, buddy.
He's going to look like a member of ZZ Top by then.
From last time you saw me, I actually had shaved off all my hair, my head, and my beard, and it's grown back.
Yes, you had, yeah. Well, yep. I'm thinking you look like one of those guys on the old cough drops box, It's
better than what you called me last time. I like the Rasputin thing. I'll take that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, Rasputin. What did I call you last time?
You said I looked like I just got out of the Taliban, which was not my
favorite.
Jeez. Yeah. I'm on the other end of the spectrum there, I'm afraid.
He's on the other team. He's on the other team, Jim.
Other team. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, it's been a pretty good show, and we, just the personalities, the way we interact, it's all good. I'm really glad to meet you, Dave. You're the new guy in the team, the new guy.
Yeah, this has been great. I've really appreciated being given the chance to chat a little bit about something I'm passionate about.
But yeah, that's the thing in Wikimotive. You guys, passion is what you do.
Yep.
So, like I say, everybody says they're a gangster till a real gangster walks in the room.
That's right. We'll be back anytime, Jim. Thank you.
Hey, take care, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Stick around.